Greetings. This is Scholar Saunders seeing what's current. Now we have a huge shift in the culture with the Supreme Court's decision to strike down affirmative action when it comes to admissions to schools and uh, institutions of higher learning. This is a massive shift. This is huge. They make big strides, but then they tumble backwards. We'll get to that later. But this is a big stride. Anyone who cares about freedom, anyone who cares about fairness, getting what you deserve, getting everything that's justified, that's justice based, that's American, then you are for the strike down of affirmative action. Because what is affirmative action? It started out with, in the 30s, but it gained steam with John F. Kennedy when he said that there should be more quote unquote, opportunities. He didn't say that, that's my words. For people of color. And then just steamrolled with Lyndon Baines Johnson with his, Civil Rights Act signed in 1964. And it just kept spiraling, and it picked up even more steam with, the schools, the students, rising up during the Vietnam era. And then by the time the 80s came around, it was a solidified kind of ideal that it was practiced. It was adopted by the Supreme Court prior to that time period, but it made such an impact because it deals with people's lives. If you don't think that a white person or a yellow person should be admitted to a school based on their race, yet they have stellar grades and an excellent, test scores, that's a complete injustice, and you are in fact a racist. It's not reverse racism, it's just racism, discrimination, prejudice, and that's evil. We should not look at other people's ideas about their own self according to what color skin they have, what color eyes they have, or the texture of their hair. It should all come down to their integrity and their character and their capacity to think. That's what it should all come down to. That's what it should all be about. So the Supreme Court's decision today is monumental. They backslid last year with Roe v. Wade. That was a wrong decision. Today they were right, partially, because I'll get to in a few minutes, what they got wrong today as well. But this is something that is great. This is an excellent example of how the Supreme Court can function and be a stalwart for human rights and justice and individual rights. Because affirmative action is completely bogus, it's completely evil, it's completely wrong and anti-American and everything you can name it, except something that's on the side of justice. It's completely, bankrupt, and they noticed that. It was a 6-3 decision, and with Chief Justice Roberts, he definitely took, a stance, even though his was half-hearted too. He was saying, it was an idea that, students should, still hold on to their racial identity, but it shouldn't be in regard to schooling. I mean, you should only hold on to your racial identity politically. Personally, you should be an individual, like myself, black man of color, happens to live in America. It's cute when I say, "Oh no, that's who I am," but that's not what the officer's gonna want to know. He's gonna know if I got a weapon on me because I'm a black man. I understand that. I see that. But that shouldn't determine what school I go into, what school I get admitted to, what my test scores are, what my GPA is. I'm a dumb community college dropout. So anything beyond, you know, that world, that would just be, a bump forward. That would be something that could be construed as a good idea for me to say, for me to even conceive of. But affirmative action, if you have it in your right mind, if you have in your mind that you are going to get ahead based on your color of your skin, well, that's, my friend, is just complete and utter nonsense and vicious. Nonsense is a too polite word. It's a weak word. It's vicious. It's evil. To even consider for a moment the fact that you're going to try to keep your life intact and your mind intact, knowing that you have something that could destroy other people. That's not justice. That's not fairness. That's not right. You should have the ability to know that you have the merit, not the chemical makeup of your body, that you have the achievements that garner and that warrant you to be a part of such schools as Harvard University or University of North Carolina. Harvard University is the oldest private school. UNC is the oldest public school, or government school, actually. They say public school because it's cute, but it's really government school. It's run by the government predominantly. Even Harvard takes in government money. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. To an extent that I'm sure they take in, whatever bits of money they can from the government. But that's the reason why we have to have private schools from pre-K to PhD. We have to have a privatization movement. Two things in America that are so important and so vital to our standard of living, quality of life, and life expectancy. That's healthcare and education. And they should be completely privatized. We have been so, I don't want to say brainwashed, we've been brain sullied, into the idea of wanting to grab at these schools because it seems like it's free. Oh, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Milton Friedman said that. No such thing as free lunch. Somebody's got to pay for it. At whose expense? The taxpayers are paying for this. And the kids still have to pay tuition. So it's even more money generated. And, for the higher learning in private schools. It's a shame, really, how we, have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok into thinking that, oh, it's okay that the government has control over my health. That's fine. It's like the dog in the house with the fire and everything. This is fine. This is fine. This is all right. Everything's going to be just okay. But it's not. And what affirmative action does is it hurts everybody. It hurts the people that are discriminated against, whites and yellows mainly. It hurts the people that it benefits, allegedly. Blacks, browns, and other people. Well, I would say white, yellow, and red. They get the high test scores. They get to go into the higher professions. But the interesting thing was they didn't include the war colleges or the military institutions after high school. And Justice Brown Jackson took offense to this. And she said in a sarcastic, swarmy way, you're making it good for them to be in the bunker rather than the boardroom. Well, let me tell you something, Miss Brown Jackson. If you go into the military, and you're an officer, chances are you're going to be okay. Chances are. It's not indefinite. It's not definite. It's not absolute. But there's a good chance that you will probably become one of the board members somewhere. Especially if you're in the higher ranks, you're in the general field, you're probably making close to $1 million a year. Or you have ties to make you a millionaire. You can write books. You can be a television analyst. So it was almost a slight in my thing. You know, it wasn't almost. It was a slight to say, that they're only good for the bunker, not the bedroom. Excuse me, 40 and slip, boardroom. Edit that out. I don't know how to edit, but take that out. The boardroom. She said the boardroom. If you look at history, you'll see that men of color and women of color have not been able to achieve the highest ranks until recently in the armed forces. Army has had maybe a dozen or more 4-star black generals. Air Force has the top general who is a black man. The Marine Corps just had its first 4-star black general. So you're going to be educated at these schools, and you can have careers that span that, or you can resign. You can renounce your commission. It's up to you. It's your choice. But to have her say something in such a sly and slick way, that kind of just, that kind of, rubbed me the wrong way. It seems as if she didn't know whether she wanted to say, in support of, military men and women or not. I don't think she was sure herself. But it definitely came across as a slight to me. But back to the main issue, back to the issue at hand. We have to discover what this ruling will actually do, which I think will do a whole lot. And I read in a few stories that, students have gone to great lengths, to ever since George Floyd in 2020 was killed. Students have flocked to HBCUs, or historically black community colleges and universities. And they have been able to acquire the knowledge appropriate for being out into the work field. However, if you want to be a doctor, there are only 4 HBCUs who support that, a physician, being a physician and doctor, that to support that career field. And only, I can't remember the exact percentage, but it was a very low percentage of different black people, in the workforce as physicians, as doctors, medical doctors. I mean, it's a sad shame, but it's the truth. And that's all because of government. I'm blaming government all day. Government has its hands in everything, and especially in our most important institutions, education and healthcare. It's no wonder that we have these issues come up. We have to get to the highest court in the land to settle them. That's the problem with it all. That's the problem that we have to contend with this issue right now. We have to understand how we converse with each other. It takes time for us to manifest. This has got my notes. Go to my notes now. But this is a leap towards liberty. It is a leap. Too bad that they took, a giant leap forward and a huge jump back. Once again, I'm teasing. I'll get to that later. But government does not mandate racial ideals to the schools who wish not to engage in such a practice. That's true. If you're a private school, you do what the hell you want within the bounds of the law. If the law says that there's no more affirmative action, you don't have to practice affirmative action anymore. If you want to have affirmative action, go ahead, by all means. I mean, if it's a private school, if we're under private, we're not there. We're not under a private school system yet. But we will get there in time. So everyone should have the chance to succeed based on merit. Merit is the key to all of this. The mental horsepower, or your IQ, in short, is what should drive you to be the best student you can possibly be. So, if there's any kind of question whether we should have people understanding what we have in our lives, because that's what the government does. It treats us like children. Our lives are at stake here. Affirmative action is a very crucial, strong talking point or issue. We have to have a bit of, understanding, at least at the most basic level, of what it means to be an American, what it means to be someone who embraces freedom and justice for all, for everybody. Everyone should experience justice. And like Dr. Jerome Brooks said, equal is unfair. That goes to affirmative action. Saying that somebody that has a 1.7 GPA and somebody who has a 4.2 got 2 extra points on their or 2 decimals on their GPA are equal. Well, that's just a complete slap in the face and this disgusting way of looking at things. It's just simple math. That's not have anything to even do with anyone. They say they're equal. Oh, he's black. He's black. Oh, even if he made it for merit in the beginning, what is the second point? What was the point of the second phase? That's what the president said today. He said, first of all, it's based on merit. If they have high test scores and high GPA, then that has to be done first. It's the only thing that has to be done. The only thing. Not just first. That's only. Nothing else. Nothing else comes into the fray. I see you, Courtney W. Thank you again for checking in. You retracted your message. Get yourself together, girl. I appreciate you. No, I certainly do appreciate you. You are day one. You're one of the best that I've ever had, on this platform. And thank you for your support. I honestly do appreciate it. I would love to see what you think about affirmative action. That's one of the things that happen. People it creates ire, it creates contempt, it creates envy. That's how vicious this is. Oh, they must be an affirmative action hire. Oh, they must be an affirmative action student. Like everybody is damaged. everybody gets hurt from this. It's hard to break free from it. People, don't exactly understand how destructive affirmative action was and is, and hopefully will never be again. Supreme Court actually made the right decision. They oscillate. They go one way to the next. They're like a pendulum shifting. They'll do one good deed, and then they'll be like my dad used to say, or still says, a cow kicks a good bucket of milk. They just, got all the milk into the pail. Oh, good job, good cow. And then they kick it over. And it's like a complete waste of what they just did. That's how we have to reflect on this. That's what we have to do to protect ourselves, to bring ourselves to a new plateau of understanding, to bring ourselves to a new understanding of who we are as Americans again and as human beings again. And to let ourselves know what is justice, what is just, what is right, what is good. And affirmative action ain't good. There's nothing good about affirmative action. Absolutely nothing. Doesn't help people, doesn't promote people, doesn't give people an extra leg up. Doesn't do any of that. Instead, it denigrates, degrades, and denounces the people of the mind, the young students that have these outrageously, high score. I shouldn't say outrageously, but supremely high scores. And, schools nowadays ask for, extracurricular activities. What else do they do outside of school? Do they help the poor? There's nothing wrong with helping the poor, but that shouldn't be the emphasis. That shouldn't be a part of the decision-making process. Just because they went to the slums of some city and gave out turkey dinners, or, went to the mental hospital and gave out toiletries to the patients, that doesn't make them a better person, and it doesn't make them more ready to be accepted by a school of higher learning, a degree granting institution. What we have to do is find a way to discover what it is about ourselves. What the Supreme Court. It's so weird how these Supreme Court decisions come about. They just drop, boom. That's what we decided. Deal with it. Like it's weird. Even the Roe v. Wade, everyone was like, "Oh my God, Roe v. Wade! Oh my God!" I was too. I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they canceled that show. It was a good show. It was going for 50 years. Then they just straight up canceled it." I shouldn't be so cavalier. It's a pretty serious subject. Affirmative action is serious too, but it's just like, why do we have these justices and they make these decisions about our lives? Like they're like the philosopher kings in a sense. They see this, we see the shadows, but only they can interpret what is seen. That's the difference between, a lot of other countries. A lot of other countries are continuing on full steam ahead with affirmative action. Many other countries are still doing it, not looking back, not reconsidering, not doing anything to do with the fact that justice should remain and prevail. Despite all our inconsistencies, all our inabilities, we should have the rights to become someone that we aspire to be, a more perfect union. We're not going to be a perfect union, but we can be a more perfect union. But we can be a perfect union. We just have to be in a more perfect sense. That's where we are. That's how we've been able to do the right thing for all this time. So I'm just glad. I'm actually glad about what the Supreme Court did. And, there's two words: diversity and adversity. That's the key. Adversity, they're saying, should be part of the college essay portion of the admissions section for your admissions letter. You should be having the worst circumstances. My mama was on crack. My daddy was never around. I never met him. My siblings raped me when I was younger. It could go on and on and on and on. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is a very adverse story. And that should be weighted on. No. That's nothing to do with their scholastic abilities. It may have hampered them. And depending on their, acumen, their ability to reason, think, and understand, they defied that adversity and was able to achieve, stellar grades and a high GPA. It just makes it more sensible to have no adversity stories and just describe a specific, understanding of who you are without going into an adversity story. And diversity sounds like adversity, but it's different. Diversity, for its own sake, is vicious. It's evil. You should not just say, oh, we got to color up the place. We should make some more blacks and browns in here. That's vicious. But if a school chose to do that without a government mandate, that's their prerogative. They should be able to do it. But other schools who don't want to do that shouldn't be able to do it in the first place. That's the rules of the road. That's how we have to come through and understand about who we are, what we're doing with our lives, what we continue to do with what we are and who we are. Are we like Brown versus Board of Education, another evil landmark case? The desegregation of schools, completely vicious. And they had to be government schools, of course. And I think it extends to private schools. I'm not 100%. I didn't do that much research into that. But I think with Brown v. Board, that was probably one of the worst, institutions of all time. Because it said that you have to force these people into your school. Black people, you have to have white people in your school. White people, you have to have black people in your school. And the yellow, red, and brown just followed along. But it's a law. It's mandated. No, I don't even think a private school can do it. I'm gonna make sure of that. I'll get back to you on that. But definitely not government schools. Government schools can't turn anyone away, not based on race or color or creed. No, definitely not race. If you want to say, I guess the same thing as color. What's the difference between race and color? I mean, race is a social construct. It doesn't exist. I just have a higher concentration of melanin. That's what separates me from somebody that has lesser melanin. Do I have a better character than them? Maybe. Do they have a better character than me? Possibly. Do they have a capacity to think? Yes. Do I have a capacity to think? Yes. Thank you, Courtney W., for checking in. Private schools can't discriminate either. Exactly. Exactly. See, that's how far we have not come. We have not come to the point where we should have completely privatized schools. That's the point where I'm trying to make. But another issue that the Supreme Court also had on today, but this got like the bottom of the fold or a few pages later, affirmative action, affirmative action, affirmative action. Oh my God. That was the main ticket. That was the top story. That was the headline across the board. But the Supreme Court also had another decision today. They ruled more on religious freedom, which is, I think, a misnomer at best and an oxymoron at worst. Because most religions don't have actual freedom. If you go by their ancient texts and you read their passages, there's no talk about freedom of speech. There's no talk about freedom of assembly. It's do this or do that because I said so and I'm God. That's the freedom of religion. It should be freedom of ideas because that's what is construed as religion. It's a set of ideas. So when you have the ideas in place, then you can say that the government should have nothing to do with ideas except protecting those that are permissible in the culture. Let me get you to this ruling. It's about a man named Groff, I believe his name is. He had an issue. He was a postal worker, and he couldn't go. He was being punished for going to the Sabbath on Sundays and not observing his work, observing the day of Sabbath and not, recognizing his work schedule. And he was punished for this. And the Supreme Court unanimously, this is key, unanimously found that he was in the right and that there are going to be stricter laws and stricter arrangements for workplaces to have the people come in as people that are faith-based. They're going to really think about that. I mean, I'm an objectivist. So if I go on a job, do I say I don't want to work on Thursdays because that's when most New Ideal podcasts come out, or Fridays? That's when the New Ideal drops. Or I want to listen to the Star Report. I need enough time because it could go on for 4 hours. And I want to listen to the whole thing. Are they going to say, okay, that's understandable? Usually, no. They're only going to look at, the top 3 and the roundabout 5. Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, Christianity. That's all they're going to do. They're not going to care about my ideas, whether I want to worship a tree or not, whether I want to worship a light pole or a television set. They're not going to care. But God, Jesus, Lord, he has to be protected. And even in the article, it said that he may still not be protected because they might have idea of saying, he still has to come to work on certain Sundays. So it's like the Supreme Court goes back and forth and back and forth. Good idea, bad idea, bad idea, good idea. It's like LGBTQ, same-sex marriages, 2015. Yes, good. Roe v. Wade, 2022, struck down, bad. Affirmative action, struck down, good. Quote-unquote religious freedom in the workplace, bad. Because these are private corporations. They should ever do what they want and how they want to do it. That's the reason why we have the rule of law and the ability to completely do what we want to do within inside that law. But if the laws are so corrupt, then how can you even breathe? How can you even understand what it means to be in liberty? That's where we are. That's what we have to do. That's what we have to recognize. It's something that's very true to us. But, with this gentleman, he wanted to go to church and not, or, I don't know, maybe not the church. As I said, he wanted to observe the Sabbath. He may be at home playing video games, or no one cares. That's how weird and vicious this whole thing is. You can't really trust somebody, to a point. But that's what it comes down to. It's like Supreme Court, yes. Supreme Court, no. Supreme Court, yes. Just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And they're unanimous. That's something we have to really hone in on. They're about Jesus mainly, but they're about God or some higher power or some supernatural mystical force. That's what they're about. They're about really understanding nothing and just going by their feelings and voting on these, sickening decisions. Because there's no one, more qualified than the Supreme Court justices. They have years and years of instruction. Years. This isn't new to them. It doesn't come as a surprise. It brings about an understanding of who they are and what they are. It brings about a greater understanding of who they are to themselves. Very intelligent, very intellectual people, these Supreme Court justices. But when they make these decisions, it just hurts your mind. It makes it gives you a headache in a sense. It's wrong. It's something that's that takes on a ugly guise. It takes on a mask of saying who or what we're representing, who we must be in our own lives. That's it. That's what I'm talking about. That's the whole gist of this. It's the same as when alcohol was outlawed. This is just an experiment. We're just experimenting with certain things. Alcohol good? 1920. What was it? 19. I can't remember the exact date, but the late 1920s, early 30s. Maybe it was late 19 teens into early 30s. Either way. You know what? I got time. Y'all better have time too. It's 1920 to 1933. Terrible time period in American history. Deaths, highest rate of illicit acts. They had to get speakeasies. I mean, this is nasty. And what we're living in today, the drug culture. They need to make these laws and these these decisions more palatable to the tongue of liberty. That's what makes us human beings and Americans as well. That freedom. And the first one, freedom of press, freedom of speech, so important, so crucial to our identity. I wouldn't be able to be doing this. They would have shut me up a long time ago. I'd have been dragged out of my room and put in jail for the things I've said, things that come out of my mouth. But no, I'm not threatening anyone. I'm not using any language that would be construed as terrorism or terroristic threats. I'm just, using this platform as something that is whole, something that is good, something that is righteous, something that makes sense. That's where I'm headed. Because I see these, court decisions. I see the latter court decision about Groff. Let me make sure this. They're making new protections for workers. Yeah, Gerald Groff. He argued that his job did not allow him to observe Sabbath on Sundays and punished him when he did not work. I said that. People are saying it could be harmful. They're saying we should not overlook that the Christian conservative legal movement brought this case in, and what they want is to allow pharmacists to refuse to fill prescriptions for contraception, teachers to misgender students, and Christians to proselytize to their co-workers. See, I mean, that's how vicious this thing can get. That's how ugly it can get. It's a disgusting display of who we are and what we are as human beings and Americans. And I'm proud to be an American, or at least I know I'm free. If I say anything else, I get a copyright strike, so I'm gonna stop right there. But I just, is there going to be a superhero? We love superheroes. The world loves superheroes. I just enjoy heroes, period. No superpowers, no utility belt, no advanced, well, maybe advanced martial arts. That's fine. But it just seems to me that there's so many people that are ready to become oblivious to the fact that we're so taken back by the people that don't agree with us. That's the problem. That's the issue. That's what makes everything so terrible and horrible. The fact that we don't have the ability to discover for ourselves our own worth. Like Groff, I guess. Like I said, hey, I'm not a Christian. I used to be a Christian. If he wants to praise the Lord on Sunday, that's his business. However, if you sign a contract with an employer and it says you must work Sundays, that should be ironclad and respected. And the Supreme Court should not have a ruling saying that an employer has to give employees the quote-unquote right to be in line with their faith. That's what I'm saying. That's the goal, that I'm trying to get at here. The idea that it is something that is hard to deal with because there are still believers, way more believers than non-believers. Non-believers make up 5% of the population. Facts. 5% out of 8 billion. 5%. And of that 5%, a lot of them are anarchists and libertarians, and very few, very, 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 very few objectivists in that lane. And even admirers of Ayn Rand are students of objectivism. That's how serious this is. And like I said, religious freedom is a joke. Can't have religious freedom. Islam. You must do this or you die. You must wear the hijab. You must wear this. You must submit. You must only eat these kinds of foods. Judaism, same thing. This has to be kosher or else. G with a dash D, capital G dash D, lowercase d, or else. That's the problem with it all. That's the issue that we have to always find ourselves tussling with. Seeing, for example, what we are and what we can do about this very incredible journey that we're on. We only get one of them. So many have died, and we've yet to see full freedom. What I mean is full-fledged, unfettered, laissez-faire capitalism about property rights and about rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The pursuit, that's a key word. That is the cornerstone of that document. The pursuit of happiness. You're not guaranteed happiness. It's not guaranteed to you. You got to work towards it. That's the key. That's what I'm saying about all of this mess we have to wade through. It gets difficult at times. I know. I've been there. It's rough. It's tough, but it's worth it. We got to start seeing the fight and living in the fight, because it's for our lives. It's for our welfare. It's for welfare is not a good name, but it's for our living capacity. It's for our very lives that we push for these various legislation that says we're going to be all right. Life is good. Life is great. No matter if you're in America, anywhere, I don't care if you're in Detroit, I don't care if you're in Mississippi, I don't care if you're in New York City. You have a great life no matter what station you're in, comparably speaking, to pretty much anywhere else in the world. You have probably an air conditioner and a running car with gas in it. You probably have a smartphone. You probably have a job where you can go to church on Sunday. But again, he signed up to be a postal serviceman. Now we understand that mail doesn't usually get delivered on Sunday. this is a special kind of, first class mail or something like that. If but they do office work and, inside the plant, inside the warehouse. That's what it is, though. Pardon me, I had to have a water break there. But no, it just gets at me. I mean, like the president says, all these cute phrases. I disagree with it. He can't do anything about it. He can do like he did in Roe v. Wade. He can't do anything. Highest office in the land. Can't do a damn thing. Can't do anything. He doesn't have the right to say. Oh, he does have the right to say, but he shouldn't have said, that this is a terrible rule. I'm talking back to the, affirmative action rule. But this the ideas freedom issue is just a mockery. It's just absent and devoid of all reality. It's not based in fact and anything. It's based solely on faith, and it doesn't matter if they're quote unquote conservative or on the right, like Justice Roberts, or on the left or leftists or quote unquote liberals like Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor. Doesn't matter. They all believe in God to some extent, some way or somehow. They have faith, and they related that to this decision, a unanimous decision, and it's going to make it tougher for employers, and that's not right. Employers should have that prerogative in every ounce of knowing what they do with their employees without any recourse. That's the world I want to live in. I want to live in the world in America. I'm not a super, I don't know, like a patriot in the sense of everything is good about America. I'm only going to live here, and there's nothing better than this. For the most part, that's true. America is the greatest country and the noblest country of all time. But I could be like Josephine Baker and James Baldwin and go to Europe and be more appreciated on some levels than here in the States. But I think it would have been either way. I think, like Paris, France, if it had more black people in the earlier stages, it would probably be, it would probably be even more, segregated and more discriminatory than most other places. That's what it's like in Amsterdam too. But I digress. I'm going way off the script here. But ideas freedom. I mean, Dr. Jerome Brooks said, I put it in, this collection, but I see ideas, science, economics, and education. The government should have nothing to do with them. Nothing. Not a thing. Not one thing to do with them. Because they do everything else so great. Why not do ideas, science, economics, and education? Why not? Just do it. Like Nike. It just gets to a point where they don't have enough, seemingly time, to explore actual issues. they have on their minds a sense that they're being, manipulative. I think they have so much power. Highest court in the land can strike down almost any, you know, or strike down or approve of any bill or any decision. That's what makes it special. This country, we have laws and checks and balances. You can't agree. I don't agree with all the laws, especially drug laws for ideas in the workplace. That's the problem. That's what we have to contend with. We have to bring it to a point where we know what we're doing and why we're doing it. And that's, both the decisions today. The good decision for the action struck down, bad decision ideas on workplace grounds being, affirmed. And it's not, and again, both are analogous. They hurt everybody. Affirmative action hurts everybody. Ideas, freedom in that context, in the workplace, hurts everybody. The employer, the employee, the administrator, and the student, the prospective student. It all comes down to that. It all comes down to a point where people don't want to realize what it is that actually happens. And that's what I want to discuss. I'm so, pleased with it, for the action being struck down. Sad thing for the faith-based ideas in the work, being a part of the workplace culture. But it's still, I'm taking the win more than the loss, and that's what I think. Well, newspapers and TV shows and cable online sites and cable news channels, they just wanted to record the biggest news. This little bit of news is nothing. The second part of what I'm saying, affirmative action is mighty. Affirmative action is huge. And this is like, and the second story, bottom of the page, second page, third page. Go see page 6, see page page 8 or 9. They both carry weight. One for the positive, one for the negative. But I'll let you figure that out. I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, for staying with me. I appreciate everything that goes on here, all the support and respect that I get, and even the hate. I need the hate. If you're not hating right, you ain't living right. But seriously, I do appreciate every reply and comment and share and money, even though I missed my goal again today. I appreciate everything you do, everything that you are. And I want you to personally know that it is with my own mind that I created this show. Mr. Chore starts running. I used to say put a battery in my back, but the battery is already there. It's just got supercharged. It's just got, jumper cables on it. And I appreciate him, and I appreciate everyone that was able to come in, leave, or come in and stay for a little while, and that's under my voice. And I do truly want everyone to know that, the Supreme Court is something that we should be taken seriously, even when they do the wrong thing, but especially when they do the right thing. Thank you very much. Take care.